What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast that is a proud partner of the Eurostat Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, coming to you with Bears Week. Packers face the Bears for the first time this season on Sunday, and we're excited to talk about what is the dysfunctional Bears. And to join me talking about all of their misery, as well as some of the Packers stuff too, is Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Bear down with the Chicago Bears. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da-ba-da.
Is that
All
how it
right.
goes?
I think that is actually.
Close enough.
It was written by Al Hoffman. Bear down, Chicago Bears make every play clear the way to victory. Well, that hasn't been happening lately. Put up a fight with a might so fearlessly. That also hasn't been happening so
Nope.
lately.
They gotta stop playing that song at Soldier Field.
We'll never forget the way you thrilled the nation with your T formation. Jesus Christ.
I never actually knew the lyrics to this song, and it's bad
Bear
apparently.
down Chicago Bears and let them know why you're wearing the crown. That hasn't happened in a while.
Hasn't happened in a
You're the
while.
pride and joy of Illinois. No, you're not at all.
That is
So,
funny.
Bears week is here. Rile let's rile it up.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Let's do it.
So, no cheese board as we did that on the trade deadline pod with Preston Smith being traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, if you want cheeses, go check that out. So we'll hop right into it with roster moves. Marshawn Lloyd has been activated off of the IR, or rather, been placed on the placed to return from IR with that designation. He was limited in practice both Wednesday and Thursday, but Matt LaFleur said during his press conference that Marshawn Lloyd is likely going to get that 53rd spot on the roster, saying that, quote, having four running backs is a good problem to have. I would frankly disagree with that, but I'm not the head coach of the football team, and my opinion on this matter weighs none to Matt LaFleur.
This is Chris Brooks erasure, okay? And we won't stand for it.
I mean, it's not. He said having four running backs is a good problem. That includes Chris Brooks. I mean, and honestly, with the way it's been going, Marshawn Lloyd being activated is Emmanuel Wilson erasure, and I frankly won't have it.
I mean, before we got to wait it out on game day. That's all I'll say. We'll see how the usage comes. But if
That
Chris,
there's a good chance that one of the four running backs is the 52nd and 53rd man,
yes,
like
that is
the
the other
the
thing.
designated inactives on game day, because it can't be Brenton Cox Jr. anymore, and it can't be Aaron Mosby anymore. So there's a good chance that one of those running backs will be 52, 53. I would imagine Chris Brooks, given the shakedown of things, but who knows with how this running back room has shaken up.
Agreed.
Um, so that's really it for roster moves. Obviously, Preston Smith, we talked about that already. Let's get into the series history against these Chicago Bears. Sunday is the 207th meeting between the Packers and the Bears. Packers lead the all-time series 106 to 9, 106, 94, and six ties. 1-1 during the postseason, and of course, the Packers are 10-0 against the Bears in Matt LaFleur's era as Green Bay Packers head coach. Um, this is from Packers Dope Sheet, the always reliable Packers Dope Sheet. The Packers have won 13 of their last 14 games at Soldier Field, and in their last 30 meetings at Soldier Field, the Packers have won 25 of them. So it may be the Bears' home stadium, but the Packers have been winning there more often than the Bears have the last 30 years. So, with that being said, the Bears come into Sunday not in a great place. Packers coming in off of a bye and a loss to the Lions, chip on their shoulder, and had 2 weeks to recover from injuries. Game plan for this game. Bears come in the once 4-2 Bears, fresh off of firing their newly hired offensive coordinator Shane Waldron, who does not make it a full season since he was hired. Uh, they've lost three of their last three games, one of which was the Hail Mary against the Washington Commanders in that 18-15 loss. That Hail Mary in which I believe it's Tyreek Stevenson is his name, is taunting fans and celebrating while the play is still happening. Commanders catch it. Commanders touchdown. Bears lose.
Can I just interject here?
You
So
sure can.
when I was doing this research, they have referred. Have you seen this thing of what they're referring that to the Hail Mary? What they're calling it?
Nope.
Madhouse in Maryland.
Hate it.
Terrible. How about this? It's also been referred to as Hail Maryland. Perfect. Miracle in Maryland. Those don't exist. And Hail Noah, which because of
Noah Brown.
Noah Brown.
Yeah. Uh,
Why?
can't.
Let's get the Madhouse in Maryland out of here.
Yeah, not
Just
good. Not good.
get out of there.
Hail Mary
Hail
Land
Maryland is
is
perfect.
good. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Hail Noah is bad because Noah Brown had a horrible game last week. Like he immediately got rid of all that goodwill um, that he had built up from catching the Hail Mary. So Hail Mary Land is should be the winner. Um, with that, in week nine, or I'm sorry, in week nine, the Bears followed that Hail Mary with a 29-9 loss to the Cardinals, and then a 19-3 loss to the Patriots in week 10. They've been sliding. Um, then, as we mentioned on Tuesday this week, they fired Shane Waldron. Uh, they have not scored a touchdown since week 8, which is obviously not ideal. Uh, Dan, I'm gonna say Wordier, sure, probably how he pronounces his last name. Weedier, Weederer.
Weederer.
Shane Waldron is the eighth member of Matt Eberflus's coaching staff to be fired or resign in the past 14 months, which is very funny. Um, I believe I saw a TikTok talking about the timeline of the Bears since who's the new ownership group there? What are their names? I can't think of their name.
Well, it's the
Yeah, the
McClaskeys and
McClaskeys.
Houses.
Yeah, so one of the McClaskeys came in, starting with Lovey Smith. He had Jay Cutler and a different GM. And ever since that they fired Lovey Smith, they've never hard reset all three positions. They've always had a new GM with a coach and a quarterback, a new quarterback with an old coach and GM, and then a new coach with the same GM and same quarterback. They have never hard reset to where they're all on the same page. And this is the exact same situation that the Bears have headed in with Matt Eberflus's uh, lame duck coaching season because he's going to get fired. It's without a doubt. So it's just very funny that the for some reason, and I don't care to know why because it's just funny as is that the Bears cannot get out of their own way and just hard reset when they need to. Because guess what, Ryan Pace probably keeps his job. Matt Eberflus doesn't, and so now you have a GM that drafted a quarterback with a coach that didn't draft him, and so the same thing, the same exact thing is happening again, and it's just so funny. So, um, furthermore, we're still not done with the Bears' misery. This week, there was rumors going around that uh, veterans in the Bears locker room wanted to start Tyson. Is it Bagent?
Pageant,
Yeah,
like pageant.
yeah, Tyson Bagent over Caleb Williams, and Bears Nation. Like, hold on, Jordan, we're getting there. Uh, Bears Nation immediately jumped on DJ Moore for spreading those rumors because of when DJ Moore walked off the field in the middle of a play, claiming he was injured, uh, and wasn't able to stay in the play.
More on that later.
More on that later. Um, so then later it comes out there's a Redditor on the Bears subreddit, so take it. It's Reddit, so take it with a grain of salt. But I think there's really only one way to talk about this, and that's just to I'm gonna try to not read the entire thing, but I think it's the context is worth noting. This is from Reddit user Roll of Duct Tape. Again, this is probably the last time we're going to reference Reddit on this pod. But since Badgett has been in Chicago, his dad, Travis Badgett, who if you didn't know, is a like famous arm wrestler a pro arm wrestling.
Famous, get out. Let's. Okay, come on.
He is. I'm don't shoot the messenger. He just is. And so, since Badgett has been here, Travis Badgett, his dad, has created unnecessary drama leaking nonsense to ESPN radio personalities who are not journalists. He did it last year with Badgett over Fields. Getsy wanted Badgett over Fields, and he did it again with veterans with having start Badgett over Caleb Williams. Uh, this time, I think it was if he's talking about Sylvie, if that's Adam Silver. Oh, because that's Adam
No,
Schefter. No, I
no.
wrote it or read it wrong. Sylvie must be a radio guy in Chicago.
Big, yeah, big Chicago radio guy.
Said was sloppy and unintentionally revealed his source as Badgen's dad. The day before his tweet, he said Badgen's dad had quote interesting things to say, but didn't share it immediately. Then tweeted the breaking news that everyone blamed DJ Moore for. So clearly, this is I'm done reading that. Tyson Badgen's dad is in the ear of Chicago radio trying to get his son more playing time and therefore ripping the team apart. And it's
Let me
very
just say,
very funny.
I think this is all over the top. Okay,
What do you mean?
come on,
What?
come on.
What?
Sylvester Stallone made an arm wrestling movie in 1989 called Over the Top.
Oh, never heard of it.
You never heard of Over the Top?
Never heard of it.
This is Rohan. I bet Rohan has actually.
Okay.
But yeah,
You questioned Travis Badgett. According to the World Arm Wrestling League, he was the 2014 second place right hand and left hand champion. So second place in right
nice.
hand, first in left hand.
Ambidextrous.
Uh, amphibious. Uh, in 2015, in the Southern region, he was second place in right hand, first place in
Southern
left hand.
region. Kiss my ass
And
with
then
that. Jesus.
2015 championships, he was the left-handed champion. So he,
Sounds like that right arm's really losing some steam over there.
yeah. So regardless, it's very funny that this all exists and something the Bears have in the background of what they're dealing with as they try to play football and remake their entire team. And to put an even bigger cherry on top, Matt Schneeman reports this week that Xavier McKinney has not forgotten DJ Moore's off-season comments when he asked when talking about who the Packers signed as a top safety in the NFL. A slight Xavier McKinney uh, took and has held on to for the last 6 months. So fair to say that Xavier McKinney is coming into Sunday's game pretty hyped up, Jordan.
Yeah. I everything about this is legitimately like I mean, it's obviously funny. Packers, for all their faults this year, are not a comical circus. Like just they're a clown car. The Bears are a clown car. We all knew after that Hail Mary that that team would self-combust. And it's happening. And it's even better than I could have expected. Do you think I would be on this podcast talking about an arm wrestling champion being an important source to Chicago radio members? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like this is sports media in 2024 where the dad of a backup quarterback, by the way, that stunk. He was bad.
He was bad.
And then they're like, let's have him start over Justin Fields because Justin Fields is disappointing. Well, he surely is not. I don't need to be an arm wrestling champion to tell you that he was pinned back on his heels. Um, it's just, yeah, like literally, it's crazy. This is crazy. And all of this is masquerading the fact that what was it? It was last year, early last year. The Bears office got raided by the FBI, which led to the dismissal of their defensive coordinator. Like literally, it's not just a I'm just being honest. As a person here, this is not about football. It just sounds like Matt Eberflus has a terrible choice of character
Yeah,
and like people. And I believe you, and I saw this is like, when you see those headlines that pop up when you have like Google Chrome, if
Mhm.
you have an Android or like
Yeah,
whatever browser.
yeah. It's just like the headlines.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Go to NFL.com.
Are you telling me to?
Bears Keenan Allen says fired OC Shane Waldron was too nice in lead up to 2024 season. Like, it's just crazy how these things happen. And the level, like Matt Eberflus is obviously the scapegoat. Bears fans are obviously over him. The fact that he's keeping his job and is firing the offense coordinator, an underperforming team that Jackson Smith Njigba could have told you on Radio Row by Bears um, for CHGO. I'm not talking about Chapel Roan, but the
God.
they were on Super Bowl Radio Row, and Shane Waldron got hired by the Bears, and the Mark Carman, who works for CHGO, previously a
You
FanSided.
have to no stop. You have to explain to the people what CHGO is because only us niche sports fan know what you're talking about.
It's Chicago. It's the All City Network's Chicago's sister station, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah, it's
network.
it's it's like the Athletic, but it's a different funding company for sports writers, and they have CHGO, which is Chicago, and they have
Yeah,
other big cities as well. And
they
CHGO,
piss. They piss on our state. They fall down our escalators,
yeah,
and that's yeah. Anyway, they had an interview with Jackson Smith and Jigba, and he basically said the same thing that Keenan Allen said, where he says like he's a good guy, and just kind of tiptoeing around the fact that he's not a good offense coordinator.
no,
But the whole point of this is Matt Eberflus. It will be the latest or the most recent example of a Bears head coach that flames out terribly, and this the ownership, the front office, whatever you want to call it, in charge will pass the buck or have them kind of be collateral damage and be foolproof of the fact that they have continually hired terribly and put out inferior products despite now having the number one overall pick who is clearly um having listened to a lot of good analysis like Mina Kimes' show, Bomani Jones, and just talking about how Caleb Williams is just every game he's getting worse.
yeah,
Every game he's getting worse.
yeah,
And I feel like the one thing that we talked about with the Bears this year, especially when it came to like division coverage, whether it was like on our premium episodes or going into the season with Todd, is that they went for the flashy additions and obviously having the number one overall pick, making the trade for Keenan Allen, getting another highly touted wide receiver in the draft. Like, yeah, it's very easy to talk yourself into that. The same structural problems continue for this team. Like terrible offensive line, terrible pass protection.
yeah.
And it's the fact that again, all this is just happening as like an avalanche and it's not slow motion. It that Hail Mary went into Hail Noah Brown's hands and the team is self-destructing. It's insane. Insane. Again, an arm wrestler. We're talking about an arm wrestler. Insane.
It's kind of crazy that the Bears obviously like needed offensive line help. Like Caleb Williams, good pick, obviously. Like that, like, you just take Caleb Williams. That's a good pick at the moment.
Yeah.
I liked the Rome Odunze. I know. I liked the Rome
But
Odunze pick in the moment, thinking like, hey, it's probably good to surround Williams with as much talent as you can. But they had already traded for Keenan Allen, and they already had DJ Moore, and then signed DeAndre Swift. They already had Cole Kmet. They obviously like draft Rome Odunze, but then they didn't have another pick until the third round. And in that pick, they drafted the tackle out of Yale, Kieran Emma Emma G Gotti. I probably butchered that. My apologies, but um, from everything that I saw, he's been not having a good year, and so like
yeah.
maybe instead you just You just draft the good tackle at 9. This is the this is the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase,
Jamar Chase,
Penny
should we?
Penny Sewell,
Yeah, yeah.
or Sewell, Penny Sewell. Uh,
Seal.
it's not Seal. Uh, argument like because right now, after Roma Dunze, they could have drafted Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. Got drafted by the Jets, or Talise Fuaga. He got drafted by the Saints. Like there's
Who's the Steelers?
Steelers drafted a
They
guard,
took
a guard.
Otana.
Yeah, Fotanu. So like,
Hmm.
there were guys there that could have drafted. Like obviously Jordan Morgan and Graham Barton are a little far down to reach for, but I think you reach for a good lineman if you're at 9 and don't pick for another 2.5 rounds essentially.
Well, they just cut one of their guys that they signed for good money
Yep.
in the 2023 offseason, Nate Davis,
Yep.
previously of the Titans. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like this team is again, the disarray. It's funny because it just happens
Oh,
so
it's
often.
so funny. It's so
And
funny.
I feel like it always is like mid-season where there's these cracks just appear, and it's like you can't put it. It's why like the fact that they rolled with Eberflus
It's so
and
mind-boggling.
essentially mind-boggling. It does not make sense. And the talk about his contract length is insane. Like the fact that apparently he has an additional fifth
He could
year.
have a 5th year. Yeah.
These things are shrouded in mystery as we know with the Packers contract details.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just like everything about this week and the fact that I'm at the library and I look down my phone and Adam Schefter is saying the Bears are going to stick with Caleb Williams this week. And it's like, what the hell are they going to do? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? That's where it is. Just utterly as bad as he has looked. And there's some really damning stats that we will get to
Yeah.
in our what to watch for section.
Yeah.
You drafted Caleb Williams to roll with him. He's your ride or die. You're riding or dying with him. You're not doing that with Tyson Badgett and his arm wrestling dad. Okay? Like, what are you doing here? It's insane. Insane.
I would agree with you. It's pretty nuts. But I think like they probably make that comment in part because um of like the rumor mill essentially going. Like I'm sure someone asked about it, and that just is like how it went. Like I wouldn't be
Who in their right mind is asking that? Who in their right mind is asking that?
Chicago media because they're
They're dumbasses for listening to an arm wrestling dad. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that's where I lose it. You, I could go on a rant. This is going to be a separate issue than what we're talking about. But you're dumb if your source is an arm wrestler. Okay. Just because you're the dad of a football player doesn't mean that you have this authority and how this freaking team works. I'm sorry.
Don't tell Christian Watson's dad
At least he played.
that. All right. Let's get into the game. Let's get into the injury report and whatnot. Longer injury report for both teams. Um, Limited in practice this week. Jair with his knee injury. Kenny Clark with his toe injury. Josh Jacobs with a quad injury. Elton Jenkins with a he was on a rest day, but it doesn't say what his injury is.
Right?
If he did have one, yeah. Marshawn Lloyd was limited. Jordan Love was a full participant, but then Jordan Morgan was new on the injury report on Thursday, and so was Rasheed Walker as limited participants with shoulder injuries for Jordan, or a shoulder injury for Jordan Morgan and a knee injury for Rasheed Walker. Josh Myers Josh Myers was limited with his wrist injury, and Evan Williams was limited with his hamstring injury. Uh, Full participants were Kingsley Enagbare with an elbow. Like I said, Jordan Love with his groin as well. And I think, yeah, that was it for full participants. The only DMP was Colby Wooden with a shoulder injury. So, Uh, for the Bears, thankfully I looked up how to say his name. It's Karan Amugadi. Uh, Amagaji. So there's that. He is out with, or I'm sorry, was a DMP with a calf injury. Jaquan Brisker was placed on IR with a concussion that he suffered like a month ago. Like on a human level, I hope he's okay, because like that's that's tough to miss 4 games of concussion and then go on IR. So hopefully everything's all good with him. Um, Tevin Jenkins, our offensive lineman, has an ankle injury. He was a DMP. Braxton Jones, their offensive lineman, has a knee injury. He was limited in practice. Mercedes Lewis was a DMP. Doesn't say he had rest, but was a DMP. Tarvarius Moore, their DB, has a concussion. He was limited. Noah Sewell has a linebacker with a knee injury. He was limited in practice. So was Montez Sweat, their D lineman, and then Darnell Taylor and Darnell Wright, a D lineman and O lineman, were both limited with knee injuries. Hard to believe that's not copy paste, considering they both have the same. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Daryl Taylor and Darnell Wright. My apologies.
There you go.
My I couldn't read the screen. It looked the same. The R's, the curve of the R, Jordan, went into the whole thing. It's a whole thing I can't read. But yeah, that's the injury report. So let's get into the what to watch for. And I think first and foremost, the biggest thing is Caleb Williams. He's been scrambling all season. Uh, in the 9 games the Bears have played thus far, the Bears have allowed 38 sacks and have the worst sack percentage, 11.5%, and have the fourth worst QB pressure rate at 40%. They're like allowing the fourth worst QB pressure rate,
Yeah.
40%. Per PFF, Caleb Williams is responsible for 10 of the 38 sacks he suffered this year, third most in the league behind Bo Nix and Brock Purdy. 2 of the 3 teams with a higher pressure rate are the Texans and the Titans, and coincidentally, the Packers pass rush had their best performances against both of those teams, with 4 sacks and 18 pressures against the Texans and 8 sacks on 20 pressures against the Titans. And so, with Shane Waldron out and new offensive coordinator Thomas Brown in place, there can only be so much improvement, right? You're not going to institute a whole new system on the fly in 1 week. So, I think the biggest thing to look at with this way, Jordan, is how does this young pass rush, this now pass rush without Preston Smith, get home against the Bears offensive line, who clearly are injured, clearly aren't playing well in the first place, and clearly has a quarterback who is susceptible to taking a whole lot of sacks.
3 words. Sign me up. Sign me up. Sign me up. Let's go. I'm ready. I am ready for this. If you don't do this, coming out of a bye week, recharge the batteries a little bit. It's your biggest rival. Yes. Do I view the Bears as the Packers' biggest rival? No. But symbolically, they are. Um, if the Packers pass rush does not bring the juice this week, it's going to be incredibly disappointing. And I don't need to
Yeah,
be an
without a
arm
doubt.
wrestler to tell you that. So, um, yeah, I think part of it is one, the Bears' offensive. It's 2 things. The Bears' offensive line is abysmally bad. There we go. Um, even the good, it was still not.
You could just say abysmal.
It was still, ironically, my pronunciation was abysmal. There you
Yes,
go.
there you go.
The O line is really bad. Even their best players on the offensive line, and by saying best, that's still charitable, um, are banged up like Darnell Wright. And again, you should be able to feast. Not having Preston Smith, there's going to be a lot of eyes on Lucas Van Ness, JJ Nabari to make that leap with more snaps coming their way. But I think the biggest thing for me is just the hero ball that Caleb Williams is hardwired to play. He freelances and he's going to live and die by that. You're going to ride or die by that, despite what Travis Badgett is texting on his Samsung Galaxy
Okay,
to
we gotta
Chicago.
stop. We gotta stop with the badging.
Sorry.
We're
They
out of
say
that part
life's
of
a
the pod.
pageant. Um, so to me, I think one, it obviously keeps your defense alert, like spying who's going to kind of be that linebacker that tries to keep Williams in the pocket, do all that stuff. But yeah, I want to see this Packers. I want to see blitz. I want to see aggressiveness. I want to see pass rush really thrive against an opponent that is down bad, bear down bad.
I mean, yeah, that's the goal, right? We want to see them just get home all day long.
Mhm.
Like you said, Lucas Van Ness, JJ Anibari probably gonna have better games. Not better, but like just better cracks at it. I'll say. I mean, Rashawn Gary, this is your time, pal. You want to have a good week. You want to start kicking off the second half of the season towards the playoffs on a good spot. Start with beating up against the Bears. He did it last year in his first game back. Gets a sack week one. Why not continue that trend? Because this offensive line is not good. Like they are susceptible to allowing sacks, and with how good Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, and company are in the secondary, if they're gonna pressure him into making hero throws like you had mentioned, or just chucking it to not take the sack, it could be a turnover heavy day on Sunday. Like very much so. And so that's where it all starts with the pass rush. If he has all day back there, it's not going to be as it's not going to be as ugly as we're hoping, right? As Packer fans, obviously, but it also relies on Kenny Clark getting home, Devontae Wyatt getting home. Like there's going to be a good push from the Packers defensive line this week, and I hope that's a kickstarter to the rest of the season for them.
Yeah, again, it's it's not just the rivalry of it all. I'm sure, as Xavier McKinney can attest, the Packers defenders have heard a lot about what's going on in Chicago. Before, when everybody was fawning over practice throws that Caleb Williams was accomplishing in August and September, or even earlier, and all the talk about the NFC North is going to run through Caleb Williams, it's going to run through the Bears, yada yada yada, and there will be a point that they will try to make. It's natural. There's going to be a little extra juice in this, and I think regardless of current circumstances, you can't lose that intensity. You obviously can't lose that focus on. I mean, it's football. Obviously, these players are hardwired to literally knock the socks off of people as physically uh, possible as that can be sometimes. But I do think there's going to be an factor of like they're down bad. Let's make it way worse. Let's make this irredeemable. You know, you're muted.
Yes, totally agree. And I applaud the Packers video staff showing the team like a historical video on like what the rivalry means to the city, to the organization, and just to the players who have been here so long in the first place. Like
Yeah.
with how young this team is, they might not be invested into this rivalry. But for guys like Jordan Love, for guys like uh, Zach Tom, for guys like Rashawn Gary and Jair Alexander and all the guys, Kenny Clark, the guys that have been here a while, this means something to them. And I think for the rest of them, like it's those captains, it's those leaders that need to really drive that point home that this is not uh it can't be a trap game for them to where they come out of a bye
Yeah.
week against an opponent who's floundering. Like they should be wanting to go out there and drop 50 on their head. Like that should just be what they're aiming to do, and so hopefully they do.
Yeah.
But
I agree completely.
we have more to talk about this offense and how that can possibly happen. Um, the reason Shane Waldron got fired is because the offense is big doo doo, big doo doo. They are 31st in the league with 4.6 passing yards per play, 28th in the league with 4.0 rushing yards per play, and they have 9 offensive touchdowns, which is good for 30th. And they have a negative .17 effective Yeah, effective points added per play, which is
Expected.
expected. Not yeah. Thank you. Expected points
Yeah.
added per play. Um, at that's 26th in the league. It's just not good. It's just not good. Their new offensive coordinator Thomas Brown was with the Rams during the Super Bowl in 2020 or 2021. Served as the Panthers offensive coordinator last season and took over play calling duties from former head coach Frank Reich after the Panthers started 6-0 last year. Uh,
Oh,
Jordan
that's
does
nice.
a lot of this research, and this is from the Athletics. Kevin Fishbane, and he just precluded this quote with all caps "oof." Quote: How bad has it been for Williams? Since 2000, Caleb Williams ranks 87th out of 92 qualified rookie starting quarterbacks with a minus 52.5 EPA. Uh, the worst quarterback is Bryce Young, who worked with Brown in Carolina last year. So you're not really putting Caleb Williams in the biggest spot to succeed whatsoever.
No,
Hasn't been all season,
no.
and that's what their offense is like. They were the first team out of the gate during free agency to sign players, and they signed DeAndre Swift. They decided to go spend their money there, which is a mind-boggling decision because running back was not a need for them. Like Rashawn Johnson is fine. Like I don't think you had the I don't think that was really like where they should have spent their money. They should have went and got a tackle or some sort of like good, just decent lineman, and they didn't. And so uh, they go out and add all the stuff for Caleb Williams, but I mean, golly, you added all the offensive weapons and then gave him paper mache as an offensive line, and it's showing. Like I think this is where the idea of starting rookie QBs is not always a good idea, no matter how good of a prospect they are, because as you mentioned earlier, he's not getting any better. Like it's getting worse and worse and worse as he continues to panic and panic and panic in the pocket and just make bad decisions.
Yeah, I know that was the thing. Bomani Jones's take on it was very illuminating. Is that every high draft pick quarterback, even the top overall picks, they immediately play. And granted, it was Caleb Williams who was talked about well before um, he even came out to college. There was even the talk about like, could he reclassify so he could go into the draft earlier because of his age or whatever it was. And so, like all this stuff of this highly touted draft prospect, he goes to again a storied franchise in a big city that has been starred for quality quarterback play in a very long time. Again,
Forever. Forever.
don't you tell that to Travis Badgett. Last time I promise. Um, but yeah, I can understand. Like, I don't as much as I'm just crappy on like the fact that they went really glitzy. Hey, let's give him the supporting cast that Justin Fields has never had. It turns out that has not really worked out. You know,
Well,
um,
they can't when you have no time.
when you have enough time, Keenan Allen. I mean, clearly
They've been using Keenan Allen
the
wrong the entire time. Like they're using Keenan Allen as a blocker on the edge.
yeah,
Like they're using him as a blocker for bubble screens for DJ Moore. Like
yeah.
Keenan Allen is 32 years old, 33.
He,
He's
he's
getting
long in the tooth.
he's long on the tooth and has a career of or a laundry list, I should say, of of injuries. He's 32 as of today.
Happy
And
birthday.
what? No,
Happy.
like no, he's just 32 today. I don't know when his birthday is. Like he could be almost 33, but I don't know when he turns 33. Um, the point being is that he turns 33 in April.
Happy.
Happy early birthday, Keenan Allen. Moving on. But like Keenan Allen for his entire career in San Diego / LA was a slot receiver. why aren't you putting Keenan Allen in the slot to work where he has his entire career? And instead they're using him to block for DJ Moore and bubble screens, and it's just not smart football. And so, and then you get like, I think I saw this stat the other day. It's I think through last year, through X amount of games, I didn't find the stat. Like I looked it up, but through 9 games this season, DJ Moore has 40 catches for 398 yards. That, my friends, is not good for DJ Moore. If you go to
Yeah.
his stats last year through 9 games, DJ Moore had 47 receptions for 735 yards. Now,
Bleh.
keep in mind that includes the monster 8 catch, 230-yard game he had against Washington. But if you take out those 230 yards, he's still sitting at 505. He still has 100 yards more than he did with Justin Fields last year than he does with Caleb Williams this year. Justin Fields, who they ran out of town because they thought he sunk. He played all right in Pittsburgh this year. He's maybe not like an elite quarterback or a good quarterback, but he at least had a good relationship with DJ Moore and was able to get him yards. Like DJ Moore having a down year with Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze, I think leads. Um, I don't want to say leads them in touchdowns. 'Cause I'm pretty sure that's wrong, but I think he has one or two. I think he leads them in yards. That's what he does. Is Roma Dunze leads the Bears in yards this year, receiving. But then in receiving touchdowns, it's a tie between DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, who both have 3. And it's not even like Romadunzi has
It's
a lot of yards. He has 414. He has 16 more than
it's just
than
a
DJ
bad
Moore does.
it's just a very feeble offense. It really is. That's all you can really say about it. It's not for all the glitz and glamour that getting a Keenan Allen, drafting high for Romo Dunze, obviously getting Caleb Williams, DeAndre Swift, as you mentioned, was the first reported signing of NFL free agency this offseason. It stunk. This offense stinks. And does firing Waldron solve the problem? No. Is Thomas Brown probably smart enough to utilize players in the right way? I would probably bet he does. I will say, as a kind of um, uh, positive point in this, it should not be go unstated as much as the Carolina Panthers were not a good football team last year. Bryce Young's best game as a pro came in a 33-30 loss against the Packers last year. Granted, against a Joe Barry defense, but threw over threw for 312 yards, 2 touchdowns, a passer rating of 110 in that loss. And obviously, Thomas Brown was the offensive coordinator for the Panthers at that point of that season, calling plays. Um, I mean, that would be my only thing. Like, well, he's done with quarterbacks were worse than Caleb Williams is right now. He's managed to kind of, I mean, the Packers know firsthand of his work against, yeah, a defense that was not to the level what this defense is, even with its flaws currently. But I just think how much of that gets rewired in 5 days, 6 days. I don't know.
It
I
can't be
don't
a
think
whole
it's
lot.
gonna be a lot. If you see net gains from going from Waldron to Brown, I don't think you see it in 5 days. I think maybe you see it in 5 weeks. But
Yeah, not 5 days.
um, yeah, it's just that again, it's not just about how you the schemes and how you utilize players. It's obviously clearly a team morale issue with just everything going on with this team. So I don't know what to make of this Bears team. I think there's you can make the conversation or you can make the point that they're dangerous because they have nothing left to lose when you're kind of the joke of the league right now. But that's giving a lot of benefit of doubt to a guy that is clearly going to be on his way out and is trying to kind of keep the house in order. That you know, that it's just you can smell the fire coming from out of the house.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, to wrap up how bad the offense has been, this was my favorite stat of the year so far. I told this to Jordan in the car on Monday. Uh, Flashback to April 27th, 2024. Courtney Cronin with ESPN writes a article whose headline is Caleb Williams tells new Bears punter Tory Taylor he won't be punting often. Well, flashback, come back to reality, back to November 14th, about 9:30 p.m. On a Thursday. Caleb Williams from scrimmage, so that's passing and rushing, has 2,021 yards on the season. Tory Taylor, their rookie punter, has 2,153 punting yards. Tory Taylor, the man who heard from his quarterback not 7 months ago that he wouldn't be punting often, has more yards kicking the ball in the air than his first overall pick rookie quarterback has done all on offense by a solid 130 yards, too.
Mm.
It's just so sweet, Jordan. It's just so sweet. It's my favorite stat. Oh, it's so good. Just eat it all up. Just give me all those morsels, please, and thank you. I don't think Jordan liked that. I don't think
No,
Jordan liked that noise. If the rest
no,
of you
thank
did,
you.
I'm sorry, but all right, let's let's move on to the Packers side of the ball. We haven't talked to any Packers on this besides like the defensive line and like a little bit of the secondary. So we'll get into this now. Uh, the Packers' explosive offense versus the Bears, believe it or not, pretty good defense. For all intents and purposes, the Bears have a pretty solid defense this year, um, keeping games within reason to the most part. But I think the biggest problem is that they're just on the field so often. Um, Bears have 15 touchdowns allowed, which is good for third best in the NFL. A negative 0.15 expected points added per play. That's good for fifth in the league. 16 takeaways is good for seventh, and a +8 turnover differential for the team is fourth. So they have only allowed 6 passing touchdowns, which is the fewest amount in the league, and they have 24 sacks, good for 14th. They're pressuring the quarterback at 34.7%, which is good for 11th, and they blitz about 25% of the time, good for 19th. So this is a very, very much a it's not going to be an easy game for the offense, I don't think. Like, I think they have some injuries with Jaquan Brisker out, obviously. He's been out for the last month or so. And then just other injuries that are on the injury report, other plays that are on the injury report. Like, it'll take a good game from Jordan Love and the rest of the offense to make sure that they capitalize on all of the opportunities to win this game. But as we talked about on the mailbag, like just making sure that they don't have as many penalties to set themselves back and just are well organized football team this week, I think is going to be more important than I think we want to imagine.
Yeah, I think again for Matt Eberflus's flaws as a head coach, I think he's shown to be a really good defense coordinator. That'll come in handy after the season. I apologize. The guy is way more qualified for his job than I am, but the defense part of it does. It's not like again, they're no slouch. You can't for all the flaws of the teams that they have played. And it should be noted, it's been a very soft schedule, and they're as we talked about last pod, they have the hardest schedules to close out this season. So
Sure do.
Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, Trevor Lawrence, those guys aren't around anymore. It's Jordan Love, it's Brock Purdy, it's hell, even Sam Darnold, Jared Goff twice. Like it's gonna be tough, and I think part of the numbers of why the defense has looked so good is inflated by the fact that they're forcing turnovers, they're playing against bad quarterbacks. They got 2 touchdowns from one from Tyreek Stevenson, the aforementioned Tyreek Stevenson, and our old friend Jonathan Owens in that Titans game that they won despite the fact that Caleb Williams threw for 97 yards. That probably should have been a an appetizer for what was to come,
For sure.
really.
For sure.
Um, but again, I do think how Eberflus approaches getting Jordan Love flustered with the defensive talent that they do have, despite some key injuries, will be interesting. Does he? It's not an aggressive defense in terms of like blitzes, but I believe the Packers. If I'm going to my NFL Pro stats right now, I believe the Packers are the most or draw the most blitzes from their opponents
That
or
wouldn't su-
highest blitz rate,
that wouldn't
I should
surprise
say.
me.
No, it wouldn't. I mean, part of it is probably, you have to factor in um it's down to six with 34.4%. I would say that probably the bye week obviously informed that too
Yeah.
because Commanders and Saints have have played all their games so far and are ahead of them. But um yeah, part of that number is obviously Malik Willis being under center,
I
and part
mean,
of that
well,
is just Jordan.
that and the fact that Jordan Love has been injured, so they're gonna blitz more often
Exactly.
to get after him. So
Yeah. So I do think you want to test him out. You want to test his athleticism. You want to test his ability to stay poised in the pocket and have to withstand pressures because you still have Montez Sweat. You still have some talented uh, players on the line that could get break through this offensive line.
hmm
It's gonna be a test for the offensive line. It's gonna be a test for like Rasheed Walker and obviously the kind of the usual suspects in that regard. But this, I'm definitely giving respect to the Bears defense because despite the Hail Mary, um, they have not been the problem. They have
no,
kept them,
in
in the
games.
season. Yeah, in games.
Trying to pull up
Two
their
last two games notwithstanding.
not last week games notwithstanding, but like looking um at their schedule, 17 points allowed against the Titans, 19 against the Texans, 21 against the Colts, 18 against the Rams, 10 against the Panthers, 16 against the Jaguars, 18 against the Commanders, and 29 against the Cardinals is the outlier, and then 19 against the Patriots. So while they haven't faced a lot of like high powered offenses, they just haven't like given them anything either. Like CJ Stroud and the Texans is probably the best offense they faced. Oh, I'm sorry, the Commanders is the best offense they faced, and that was by all means 19 and 18 points. So yeah, like the Bears defense is good, and so
Mm.
it's gonna take a good effort from them regardless to win this game. They get some points on the board. So yeah, nothing to turn their nose up at. However, they Josh Jacobs could be poised to have a pretty big day against this defense. The Bears defense, as I mentioned, had only allowed 6 passing touchdowns, which was the fewest in the league. However, but they have allowed 9 rushing touchdowns, which is middle of the pack at 17th. 133 rushing yards per game they've allowed, which is good for 24th in the league. 4.8 rushing yards per play, 28th, and 13.4% stuff rate. That is good for 28th in the league, and that stat is PFF's stat, if I'm not mistaken, about the
NFL Pro.
NFL Pro stat, but running plays that are stuffed
Stuffed.
essentially. So look for Josh Jacobs, man. He could he could have a good day, especially coming out of the bye, some refreshed legs, and hey, maybe we see all four of those running backs from the Packers get going this week. And if you're gonna do that, that opens up the
At the
play
same
action.
time,
Please no. If you're gonna open up, if you're gonna get like a lot of yards on the ground and have a day rushing the ball up the gut, all that does is open up the play action pass for Jordan Love, and that's a good place to be if you're the Packers offense.
I agree. I think I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I was looking at the conditions because obviously it reared its ugly head last time that we saw the Packers play. Current projections, according to the Weather Channel, which their expertise is the weather, they're saying it's going to be cloudy at 62 degrees. slight chance of rain shower, which you have to factor in for the lake effect coming off that ugly stadium that is Soldier Field.
It is on the lake, so that'll be partially an issue for sure. But yeah, like I mean, get Josh Jacobs going, man. I think like coming out of the bye, I want to like run him into the ground right away again. But I mean, let him go get 100 yards on 15, 20 carries. Then let Emmanuel Wilson and if Marshawn Lloyd plays and is activated, let him get some run too. I think it's just a good idea to try and get what you can from this Bears defense that can't stop the run, much like the Packers can't. So, all right. Lastly, before we get into players and fantasy streams and predictions and stuff like that, a couple of matchups to watch. Whoever Jalen Johnson on the Bears gets for his defensive assignment, whether that's Jaden Reed or Romeo Dobbs or Christian Watson, um, any of those guys, Jalen Johnson is a good corner. So if he can, whoever he's going to have is probably going to be negated this week.
Yeah.
And then for Chicago, how do the Bears um, wide receiver core of DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, and Keenan Allen line up against the Packers defense? Like, who does Jair get? Who does Keyshawn get? Who does Karen Valentine or Eric Stokes get? Like that could be with a better with better QB play. That'd be a good matchup to watch this week. But I'm not entirely confident that Caleb Williams and that offensive line will be able to keep him upright long enough to make those mistakes that could be their pay,
I don't know. I don't know. And obviously, health is a factor,
especially for Jair.
especially for Jair. Um, Again, questions that will be answered closer to kickoff, but you need a healthy secondary to at least negate the threat of what could be a competent Bears offense with some juice this week. I don't know. I don't know. This is the wild card week for them. And the fact that this is their wild card week, they're not actually going to play a wild card game because they're probably too far out at this point. But
Yeah,
um, you know, how does resiliency strike, or is this team just further drift apart from one another? I don't know.
it's a good question. It's a really good question. So, all right, Jordan, players to watch and your fantasy streams. I will let you go first.
Actually, I'm gonna answer both in one fell swoop. I think this is a big Josh Jacobs game. I think we saw him literally at the probably on his way to his best rushing performance in a Packers uniform, as a handful of games as that is, before he got hurt and the game slipped out of Packers' fingers um, against Detroit before the bye. I just think, even with the questions of, or less questions about Jordan Love's injury and, having a week to kind of get healthier, reevaluate what it's, kind of nagged at his performance and the standards that he has to live up to. I think Josh Jacobs is just going to be the guy that keeps everything together. He's just kind of amid all the stuff going on with Jordan Love and obviously injuries play a factor. Malik Willis playing. It's Josh Jacobs has been keeping things whole for by and large since the Eagles game. So
Yeah,
I just part of me is I want to see a big field day and just run all over the Bears because I think that would just be more kind of it's fun. I mean, last year's Bears game, week one, and just seeing explosive plays. Quay Walker getting, I believe that was a touchdown, right? He at least got a
yes,
pick in
yeah.
that
It
game.
was a pick six, and he concussed himself.
Yes,
Uh,
that's right.
at
Jesus, yeah,
well, not himself. I think he got hit pretty hard as he was crossed the goal line by a lineman. But
yeah.
yeah, pick six in
Um,
exchange for concussion.
um, as much as that like kind of avalanche type game was, it would just be nice to just again run full throttle over the Bears defense and
100%.
you blood is in the water.
Yeah, 100%.
Blood is in the water.
Totally agree. My players to watch is the duo of Xavier McKinney and DJ Moore. I am
Mm.
excited to see that matchup should it manifest. As I mentioned earlier, Xavier McKinney still slighted by DJ Moore's comments in the offseason. Uh, Good chance for Xavier McKinney to have a couple picks this week, if all goes well. So be on the lookout for that. And then DJ Moore, just a good player, like despite who his quarterback is. So always have to keep an eye on him, and hopefully he doesn't go off for 230 like he did last year. So who's your bear? Yeah, it's not easy.
Probably, probably Caleb Williams.
Has to be.
Admittedly, I have not watched a lot of Bears games because I'm locked in on Packers games and catch the occasional Thursday night game as it sees fit. But so this would be my first time seeing him play
Yeah.
in a Bears uniform.
Yep.
Um, and again, you have is he capable? I mean, is this moment too big for him to kind of overcome all the things that have increasingly dogged his rookie season? I don't know. Does he respond to having a new offense coordinator positively? Again, we don't know until he plays, but a lot is, I mean, I'm not going to make the joke again. I'm not going to make the joke, but it's right there. It's right there. It's right there if everybody wants to listen to me rant earlier. But, with a lot of arm wrestling experts, armchair quarterbacks, if you will, um, thinking that he could be like again. I just the fact that there was a thought, whether it's founded or not, that he was going to be benched. You would think that would be kind of a rallying cry for him to be able to, you know, especially going into your first Packers game, make a point, make a statement kind of game.
Right.
So I don't know. My expectations of what we see from Caleb Williams is all over the map, and it could end up being just what it's been throughout the year so far.
That'll do it. Yeah, I'd agree. Score predictions. Go for it.
Oh,
You don't gotta think that hard.
I'm thinking hard about how much the Packers win by. I think it's gonna be let's go Packers 31, Bears 21. I think it'll be somewhat of a game. I think the Bears will have some juice early on. I think it fades. I think the Packers capitalize on um I mean also I think that would be the most points that the Bears have let up this
It would be.
year.
It would be.
So it's one it didn't stop the Packers from putting up 39 in week 1 last year. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I just think it's gonna be for as much as we're hooting and hollering about the Bears' demise right now,
Hootin' and hollering.
a hooting and hollering. Um, I think they'll respond in kind. I just think it just fades, and it's a matter of the better team prevailing.
27-10 Packers for me. Yeah. I don't see their scoring woes getting any better. Like it's not like they've been good. They haven't scored more than uh more than 20 points in 3 weeks. So,
They haven't scored since another president was
why'd you have to go there?
elected. I'm just saying.
I hadn't thought about that in days.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. So, all right, folks, that does it for the Bears preview this week. I am excited to see this game go down, just because we need some good in our lives. Go check out all things GSPN over at gspn.info and subscribe to the premium Substack. $8 a month to get all these pods ad free, as well as GSPN After Dark. If you're a Bucks sicko and you like seeing them beat up on the Pistons in overtime after the ball don't lie, Andrew and Ty were over on GSPN After Dark talking about Giannis's 59-point explosion against the Pistons to get that win on the second night of a back-to-back. So go check that out. That's a great episode they released this morning. $8 a month. It's worth it. I promise. Um, if you like all things Brewers, couple of awards handed out to the Brewers. Two
We've been recording.
since we've been recording.
Yeah.
But also uh, the Gold Gloves to Sal Frelick and Bryce Turang, and then William Contreras was awarded a Silver Slugger earlier this week, and then named to the All MLB team. So they'll have an episode on that out soon enough. So go check out Cruising for a Bruising. Um, Go check out Buck stuff, as I mentioned, the regular pod Zero Step with Tyne Rohan and Win and Six with Adam and Andrew. Why do I keep saying Adam and Andrew? Adam and Jordan. I'm just obsessed with Adam and Andrew. They'd never know it. Adam for sure, but Andrew knows it. I'm obsessed with them. Then make time for this with Adam and Andrew is there as well. So go check out all the things GS folks. We appreciate your listenership as always. We'll be back in your podcast feeds on Monday with the post game pod of the Bears game. So thank you so much for listening, and Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.